Yeah, I don't believe in destiny, I just do what's best for me. Don't listen to my enemies, they're just full of jealousy. Yeah, this legacy, you gon' see what's left of me. You gon' see success in me, you ain't seen the rest of me. I just wanna be the best at what I know, better than the rest, just watch me grow. Put me to the test and watch me go. This is my quest, I'ma make it known. They call me obsessive, oh I know. Call me selective with my notes, call me aggressive with my flow, call me offensive even though Joe, I ain't gonna lie, life's tough. Try to get by, life's rough. Try to do it right, it's not enough. Even though you try, you still mess up. But I'm still gonna fight for what I love, still gonna die for what I love, still gonna try, I won't give up, still gonna fight until I've won. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left, and I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret, cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in. I will not let them win, I won't stop till the end, no.
Bro,
I've been through some injuries, mentally and physically. Studied them religiously, so I don't repeat history. And people won't admit to me, they don't want a victory. Bad enough to get a C, they'd rather just go leave it be. And oh, this journey I've been on since 13, working hard and learning, never stopping searching. Yeah, it's burning, all this passion hurts me. I took action working, writing down these words. No, I'm not okay, I just wanna be something. I don't wanna be nothing, living all alone. No, I'm not alright, I'm just barely getting by. But I'll tell you I'm just fine, so you leave me alone. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left, and I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret, cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in. I will not let them win, I won't stop till the end, no.
All right, what is going on, everyone? Thanks for coming and hanging out with us on this Saturday night. We're switching things up a little bit here because normally I do my Saturday lives, which I did not do. I apologize to the Dying Breed community, but I did have a doctor's appointment for the VA early this morning, and as you all know, some of our veterans know, that is just a bunch load of fun. So we also had this huge audiobook released by this amazing individual. And tomorrow is Christmas Eve. So I was like, well, a lot of people just have family things going on and stuff. So I figured we'd just do a special Saturday edition and merge it all together. So thanks for being with us, everyone. Not only that, we also have the Legion family, the Legion community. So thank you guys for tuning in, hanging out. Yeah. Stephen Landry, of course, the music goes hard, and bro,
that song slaps, dude.
It is epic. And here's the greatest thing: like, it's one of my all-time favorite songs, and it's done by Nefex, and he has copyright-free music. And you know, destiny, right? Like, a lot of us, as we know, when we're starting out and saying, I want to be an author, I want to be a narrator, whatever, you always have those doubters, you always have those naysayers, the people that are there visibly, but we know that they're secretly just hoping that we'll stop or fail or quit or give up. Yeah. And so that song just keeps me going, man. So yeah, it's awesome. Angel Ramon, I agree with Steven. So thanks, guys, for hanging out. And of course, we have this beautiful gentleman, Mr. JoeDan Worley here. What's up, brother?
How's it going, man? Don't really stop. Tell me more. No,
I'll
no,
tell
things
you.
are good, man. Things are good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
are
So,
sound levels? Am I too high, too low? We good?
I mean, I just want your beautiful voice in my ears all the time. That's
Thanks,
why
man.
you're now the voice actor and narrator for the entire Call Sign Bloodbath series.
I have a secret. Yeah, I think I mentioned this to you before. When someone throws an audition my way, thank you, Steven. My goal is to get it back to them as soon as possible so that my name is the first thing that goes through their head. So you may get a cleaner audition from somebody. But I even left in when I sent you the cold read, I even left in the flubs. I think one of them was like, get it together, JoeDan. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's literally, oh my gosh, that was funny. That was funny. Hello, Facebook user, my
oh, that's
bros.
one of my good friends, old Facebook user. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's definitely they are definitely my
They,
top 10.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we are using StreamYard. So if you just go to streamyard.com/Facebook, which I should probably put that link in the chat for you guys, give them access. That way we can see who you are when you go on screen with us. So streamyard.com/Facebook.
/Facebook. And if you're on MySpace, good on you. Good on you,
Absolutely.
boys.
So there you go, you guys. StreamYard.com/Facebook. Go ahead and grant them access. That way we can see who you are. But yo, thanks for hanging out and tuning in. So okay. Let's actually start with that audition because full disclosure, JoeDan was not the first person that I went to try to put this project with.
Yeah.
There's another individual, Air Force veteran, who was one of my troops, and I love him to death. I gave him the opportunity. I said, hey, if you want to submit a cold read, let me know your thoughts. 2 weeks later, actually, it was just over 2 weeks. I think it was like 16 days, 17 days. I reached out. I said, hey, what's going on? Sorry, I'm really, I'm backed up. That's it. So JoeDan and I had this opportunity to hang out at Dragon Con,
Yeah.
which was amazing.
Yeah.
And after hearing your voice and hanging out with you and hearing your story, I was like, I think this is the guy. And so I sent it over to you after a brief chat. And within 24 hours, you sent back this cold read of Bloodbath.
Yeah.
So what was that like doing a cold read and kind of going through this process? Because this is really the first project
My
of this
first
level,
project,
this
yeah.
scope.
I mean, I've done like 30-second commercial things and like 60-second commercial things, and it's all been focused mostly on like nonprofit. I work for a nonprofit that trains service dogs for veterans, and so getting involved with veterans and doing things like that, I'm always more comfortable with hanging out and talking with veterans, which I think is one reason why we connected so quickly at Dragon Con. But going from being sadly a face man, somebody that is used to getting in front of people and talking and being able to see the reactions of people, it's intimidating to throw art out because it's so impersonal that people will say anything. And sometimes people will say things just to get a reaction, like this guy made me throw up, and no one said that yet. I'm sure if it'll be Perez or somebody, one of those guys that'll say something like that, all out of love, of course. But it's intimidating, and so I try not to give myself time to think. If somebody tells me that you and I are going to get in a fist fight in the next 24 hours, I'm going to just run up and hit you. Like, let's get this over with. Like, I'm not going to cheap shot you. Just be like, I'm about to hit you. It's on like right now.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think I wanted a quick turnaround. I just got in there. I was like, this is the worst it's going to be. You get a cold read, and if you like that, then we can move up from here. There's more room.
Right. Kyle Wilkinson, that was him. So, dude, good to see you, man. Thanks for hanging out, Kyle. I love you dearly. And of course, Herman P. Hunter, the Lore Forge. Thanks for coming over, brother. I really appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit tonight.
That's a killer thumbnail he's got there. Looks so serious.
Yeah, I love it. Part of the
like
Iron Age community. So really glad that we got connected there. Okay, so let's go into a little bit because I don't think a whole lot of the community may know some of your story, maybe the vast majority, but you started out in the Navy.
Correct. Yeah.
and you were a corpsman. So in reality, you were more on the Marine side than you were
Yeah.
the Navy side. So my big question was, why did you choose the Navy? Why did you choose to go the corpsman route? Like, what was your whole motivation behind that?
You know, it's really funny. It all kind of circles back around to video games. You know, I almost went into the Marine Corps straight out of high school, but I'm a mama's boy, and I'm glad I didn't because I met my wife. I met, um, my brother-in-law who introduced me to my wife. He's married to the identical twin, and so it happened the way it was supposed to happen. Having said that, though, I I went into the Navy. I had great test score. I test better than I am. I'm one of those guys that can have everybody around me fooled into thinking that I've got a high IQ, but really I just test well. Um, and I so I went to when I went into the I took my ASVAB practice test. They were like, you can pretty much do anything you want to do, and I started looking through my two main choices going into the Navy, and I picked the Navy because I wanted to travel some, and I had a wife, so I was like, maybe not go directly into the Marines or the or the Army and go like right into combat because obviously this was like 2003, things were
Oof.
popping off.
Yeah.
And but it's just in my blood, man. I don't know what happened. I saw Corpsman, and I saw what it did, and I saw they went with the Marines, and I saw it was medic, and it just spoke to me. I mean, going back to every video game I've ever played, the first thing that I remember maxing out in Ultima Online was bandaging. And I would just like sneaking in bandaging. I would literally sneak up to people and bandage them to heal them just because it was fun to me to do that. Because some people would sneak up and heal or whatever. But I I've always wanted to take care of people. It's kind of who I am. So I went in there and I went straight through the pipeline. Great mistakes. Went across the street to Corps School and then went over to California for Field Medical Service School. And I mean, I loved it. And the Marines took care of me, and I took care of them. Marines are so easy to win over. All you got to do is when they have to work, you just show up and work with them, and they're like, "Doc's all right."
Yeah.
So we
Doc's a
filled
good guy.
sandbags, and I went and filled sandbags, and they were like, "I like Doc. Doc's all right."
Yeah. That was the same way I approached First Sergeant, and I was assigned to the operations group. And in the operations group for the base, you had basically the pilots, the F-15, fighter pilots,
Yeah.
but then you had all those support services. And I loved my 270th Air Traffic Control Squadron guys, because you had the operators who were the air traffic controllers in the tower. Yeah. But then you had the maintenance guys who were doing the radar and the tents and all of this, the structure. So whenever we'd go out to AT, especially on that last one, I was out there digging the trenches for all the cabling, and I was helping put up the tents. And I remember one of the newer guys, he was a staff sergeant, just got out of active duty. He comes over to me. He's like, "Are you really the first sergeant?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I got the diamond." He's like, "I have never seen a first sergeant in my career who is out here doing work with us." And normally I would have my digital camera with me and take photos of everyone in action. But there were times where it's like, nah, man, if we need to help move this from here to here, then let's freaking do it. Yeah. So that's awesome. All right. By the way, the book recording was amazing. JoeDan, your read was legit. Thank you, Facebook user. So Facebook user, just remember, go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, give them permission so we can see who you are. But thank you. That's some awesome feedback. We really love that. And we were talking about feedback earlier, but
yeah. I think a lot of times people don't realize, like, I'm, and I've said this, and I hope that I can maintain this mindset, but I'm no wilting violet. I'm aware that I'm new at this. And we definitely talked about this. It's vulnerable to just throw your art out there to do this, and I don't get to make somebody love me first. I'm a people person, and I'm genuine. Like, I really love connecting with human beings, but I don't get to do that. All they have is my voice, and in my writing, when that happens, like, that's all they get is that piece of art. They don't know anything about your story or anything. So it's funny if I write a combat scene, they don't know me from Adam,
right.
and they don't know what I've seen and what I've done and why I'm so weird about making sure I add in smells, smells into combat, because people don't realize that like that's the most visceral thing about being in a high stress situation sometimes. That's what makes you remember it,
Yeah.
and so it's vulnerable, and you want feedback, you want people to say, hey, good, bad, or ugly. Like, I mean, it doesn't help to be like, that was the worst thing I've ever heard. I'm getting a divorce now. And, that doesn't really help me, and it's really bad for you. So, but,
Well,
there-
that's a really great point too, because like you might be writing a combat scene and the reader who has never been in combat critiques you like, oh my gosh, they don't even know. And it's like, well, I left part of me over there.
yeah, I kind of do know. I mean, I don't ever like weaponize my military service really, but, unless I have a late fee or an overdraft fee at the bank, then I call and I'm just the most wounded veteran you've ever met. Money's different, man. Money's different.
Yeah. So one of the I absolutely love how you tell the joke, and I've told it to other people, and they're just shocked. And I'm like, you need to meet JoeDan, but it's basically like he lost his leg, and that's not how you normally tell people. So what do you normally tell people?
I'll tell the whole story here because I think it's important to realize how important humility is. And for someone
Okay.
who's not afraid to face their vulnerabilities, I'm not afraid of failing, obviously, or falling. So I got invited to do this talk, and the talk was in front of a group of people, and all I knew is that they were financial bank people. We were in Manhattan, and we were up on like the 23rd floor of some building. So every person I walked by was making 3 times the amount of money I make. I'm not one of those kind of people that see people making money and get mad. I was having a pity pot day, and those are very rare for me. Anybody who knows me knows I don't often have those. I think I wasn't sleeping well, probably wasn't eating well because I was traveling. I was just having a day. I don't know what triggered it at all. But if there's one thing that I don't mind doing, it's doing a self correction. And I will never forget. I got pulled up in front of this entire group of people. It wasn't a big talk. I think there was like 25 people in there, but it was all loaded people. Like people's shoes were more than everything that I was wearing together.
Right.
And this lady introduced me, and I felt like I was being forced to do something, and I was about to be vulnerable in front of people who didn't have the capacity to understand what I'd been through. And very quickly, we'll go over it. I lost my leg in Iraq. I was running across a bridge and got blown up, like running, not in a vehicle, and my left leg's gone above the knee. My right knee is reconstructed. I had 30 something surgeries. My right ankle's fused; it doesn't bend. My fake leg is my good leg. So I'm about to tell the story to all these people, and she says he lost his leg in Iraq. And I lean over into my mic and I say, well, I didn't lose it. I knew where it went. It went everywhere. And it was one of those things that like you say, because like I'm a comedian and I'll say it because it's funny, but it was kind of said sort of like petty, and dark. And yeah, it was funny. But what got me was there were people in that room who gave me 1,000-yard stare and a smile, and I was wrong. And I knew that there were people in that room, and it come to find out it was a veteran resource group, and it was slap full of veterans who've come out of the military and done very well for themselves. And I was in there running my mouth like I was talking to a bunch of plebes, and I wasn't. I was talking to some warriors in there, and I broke down in tears during my talk. It's my favorite talk I've ever done because it's the first talk that I learned something about myself. I learned that you never know who you're talking to. And that sometimes when you're having a conversation that seems very trivial to you, it is a core memory for someone else. And they may not even know it in that moment. They may walk away. How many times have you had a conversation with someone? Well, even us talking at Dragon Con, I knew I liked you, but like when I left and you reached out, I'm like, man, I'm glad he did. He's been in my mind. Like my spirit strived with you. I like to use that. It was somebody that I had a connection with that I was really glad, that we connected.
Yeah.
But that was a talk where I get up there and I say this really awful thing to sort of mentally gain control of the room. Like, you're making me do something I want to do. Let's make it weird. And I was wrong. And that, I learned something that day. I learned that I needed to probably slow my roll a little bit.
Yeah. But it's a great way to break the ice though.
Yeah. It is a very me comment. It was just for me, the spirit in which you do things. Now I use that, but there's no pettiness behind it. There's love and me giving you permission to to come at me because I'm going to come right back. You know, I don't take myself seriously because nobody likes anybody who takes themselves seriously. You know,
Yeah.
it's just nobody likes that.
Yeah. Well, Kyle definitely loves it. He says it's genius.
He's got a low bar. That's why I like him.
And then Paul coming in with the comments, just listened to the read and it was good. Appreciated the details. And yeah, dude, I love the amount of detail that you went into this project. Because even, I mean, guys, this was only like less than 6,000 words, just right around that.
Yeah.
And 38 minutes of high quality storytelling by you, man. Like what was your process just to coming in? Oh, and Paul is also a Navy veteran.
Nice. Shipmate. There we go.
Hell yeah.
There we go.
So what was your approach to this project? Even though it was small in scope, it was short in duration, but for your first time, what was that process like?
You know, for me, part of it is I wanted it to be genuine, and you know, and now that we're on the other side of it, I don't mind talking about what I intend on doing better in the long run.
Okay.
I think because it was a short story, I liked emphasizing the cursing and really putting sort of like dirt in those words and really sort of spitting them out because it was such a short story. You're not going to burn someone out on that. You can't stay at that level for a 10-hour audiobook. You know, if every time I say a word, I'm like, you know, fuck, you know, I can't do that every time because it's not, you know, that's just like, okay, dude, I get it. And you know, one of the things that makes something not feel gratuitous is not overemphasizing that stuff. So, you know, I that was a conscious choice to do that stuff. The other stuff, I really just I like little details, and they don't. And once you set things up in Reaper, it's easier to do. And so, you know, I spent hours trying to just get the little sounds right, and you know, I liked the way that the mission stuff worked, and I really liked the comms open. You know, in my mind, I was trying to go for a bit of Optimus Prime in that moment because it's such a quick, and that's all I use that preset for is the comm open, comm closed, stuff like that. And so, you know, I had different presets for that kind of stuff. And I really just was thinking like, let's do some of the work now and we can fine tune it later. But I really wanted to add, I love, you know, it's fun to do just a straight audiobook and to hear an audiobook. But if you can spend you know, just little details that, you know, and like Paul, I'd love for you to elaborate what you meant by details. Do you mean the story details, which were great? Or do you mean that, you know, it was a little extra effort put in for sound effects and things like that? You know, we even talked about going through and doing a calm sound over everyone who was over calm, but I didn't want to lose volume or distract from the story. I didn't want every time someone to talk over calm to be like, you know, I didn't want it to sound, I didn't want to overdo it, you know?
That'd be too realistic where like listeners are like, what did he say? Well, that's literally what we're asking on the ground. Like, what the hell did the pilot just tell us?
We'll say that's why. So you don't, in the military, people don't know this. You don't say repeat over the radio ever. You say again your last, or say again.
Yeah.
And so that's why in conversation I do that, because repeat means, you know, if they just did a fire for effect or whatever, that means do again what you just did. That's a physical action. So
Paul coming in, the use of round sizes, correct use of weapon details and such. So here's the interesting thing, Paul. When I first wrote Bloodbath, because I'm trying to think, I might have written this short story after I finished writing book 2. I'm trying to think now. I think I actually did. That was one of the things, like, I wanted to make sure I did it as best as possible, as realistic as possible. And I have told a few people, I said, look, if you are not used to handling weapons or going to a shooting range, if you read Call Sign Bloodbath, the first book in the series, and if you grab a weapon and go to the shooting range and follow things that I say that he is doing in training, you will become a better shot. Yeah. And that was like a little scary to me, but I was like, that's the genuine aspect that I really want to hit, where a lot of people will be like, that's exactly what it is. So, but I did love, and here's another thing, because this is a lit RPG book, there's certain things like the com open where, or, yeah, com open, where the book doesn't necessarily say there's an audible sound, or when he's reading messages, it's not coming through in the other character's voice. But that is one of those kind of unique tropes of lit RPG where if you see the box, you normally do have that other character's voice playing to give you the game elements. And when you brought it, I was like, this is a perfect fit. It makes sense.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I love also that you just sort of threw it to me and let me sort of do my own thing. And there were some things we had to meet in the middle on, like, okay, yeah, do this a little bit. I picture this. I think we had to bring Whisper's voice, the whispering voice of Booster up a little bit. And little things like that. I think it was kind of funny. I wonder. I work out with a bunch of people out of up in New York, so I wonder how they like my Angel Ramon up to bat. I wonder how much they like that.
Yeah, dude, I absolutely loved that part. I thought you killed it, and it's one of those things too where when you watch football games, they move their announcers around, and granted, baseball is a little bit different, but just because you're watching the Yankees doesn't mean you will have an East Coast accent either.
Yeah.
And I think some people are like, oh man, this guy ain't from the Bronx. Are you kidding me? Like, I can tell that voice ain't from the Bronx. But would you associate it to the East Coast? Because that's really all we're trying to get right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're still acting, and so that's really, just trying to get that across. And to be honest, if I could have found a copyright free crowd in the background, you would have had a crowd for that too. I worked on it, but I couldn't find one that I wasn't 100% sure wasn't going to get you pinged. And you don't want to do that. I'd rather underdo it than overdo it and get you,
Right. Well, I mean, we tried to get Mark Wahlberg, and he said, "Oh, guys, I can't squeeze you in." So yeah, I mean, next time, Mark, you can be our announcer.
He's like, I'm a peacock. I gotta fly.
Angel Ramon's a peacock. Let him fly.
He's fly.
He's gonna fly all the way around the plate. Let me tell you, win it for the Yankees. Yeah. So Angel's been a great friend, great supporter, and I tried to get him in the prologue for book 1.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote 2 different prologues. Both of them were about 1,500 words each. And I'm just like, this is not working. It's not working. I don't know what's going on. And so I went for a walk. And as I was on my walk, that's when it hit. And I was like, I know exactly what it needs to be. I went back. I wrote the prologue that you cold read. And that's where I was like, well, sorry, Angel, I got to cut you out. But then with this short story, I was like, I know exactly the great opening scene that I want.
Yeah.
So.
Well, perfect. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was fun. As soon as I saw the name too, I'm like, there's a nice nod.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's kind of move into the. Oh, and guys, if you have any questions for this beautiful individual, put them in the chat.
About
definitely.
Like maybe my face care regime, anything like that. I'm up to talk about.
Absolutely. So any questions for JoeDan, definitely put them in the chat. My question for you now is, you're not only a religious guy, but you are someone who tries to carry yourself in what would be a much more professional sense, rather than the cold-shouldered veteran who's like, I don't give a shit what you think. I'm going to say how it is. So now you are about to undertake a series where in book 1, you have over 500 F-bombs to overcome.
Yeah.
How was that approach? Because I know some voice actors, narrators, they're like, dude, I don't want to do harem. I don't want to do romance. And then there's times where it's like, you know what? I will take everything I can get to build my resume, my portfolio. So, was there any challenges as you started to kind of skim over book 1 and prepare yourself for that level?
Well, anybody who knows me actually knows I don't cuss normally. It's just not part of my vocabulary. And funny story, the reason why that happened is I met a friend of mine who we started talking on the phone for like hours a day. And we met because I met his parents at church, and they introduced me to him. we started playing a bunch of video games and stuff together. And I thought he didn't cuss because, you know, his dad and his mom were so big into church. So I didn't cuss around the guy. And he didn't cuss around me because he thought I didn't cuss. And this was like 3 years. We were easily best friends. And then one day we realized that we had both stopped cussing because we thought the other one didn't cuss. And when I say we talked on the phone all the time, and that's like, I literally stopped cussing. I had multiple reasons. I had like, a small kid. I had like a 2-year-old. I had, there were loads of reasons to like, all right, why not? And it's not that I have anything really against cussing. I don't look down on anyone who does. For me, it was almost like a challenge, like, can I go from being a guy who just, could weave an F word in the middle of 2 syllables in one word, and, to not using those kind of words anymore. And turns out you kind of can. But going into this and like with harem, I just don't want to read. I don't have anything against it. I've read, 50 Shades of Grey. I've read, Twilight. I've, sometimes.
Also, fellow Corman. That's awesome,
Nice.
man. Who
there
knew?
You go.
All right.
And so for me, it's violence is something that I do understand, unfortunately. In those moments and reading through that, at no point do I feel like you're throwing a word in for the purpose of just sounding cool. And for me, being able to act something out that feels natural, that feels like it's something that is a scene that I can visualize, it was fine. I mean, to me, I thought it was going to be harder than it was, just because I thought it was going to sound like a 12-year-old trying to, curse for the first time. But reading through the story, it came. It's like riding a bike. It's like riding a fucking bike. It just, it comes right back. It didn't mess me up. I don't go out into my daily. I'm not teaching my kids new words.
What this fucking word? Never seen this one before. Oh, that's weird.
I'm like Googling it.
How to pronounce 4-letter words.
Cleveland steamer.
Nice. That's awesome. So now, did you find yourself like coming up with a routine? Because you spent a lot of time on this short story, and now kind of right now, book 1 is going to go to editing January 1st. So as soon as we're done getting book 1 back, JoeDan will have it to start working on. So we're basically planning a rapid release in 2024 where you'll get book 1, 2, and 3 basically a month apart from each other. So once Joe is done with all 3 books, that's when we're going to push it out. So JoeDan, what's kind of your approach to doing the recording? Like, do you plan on in the morning? Do you get into the studio and do your thing, or how do you approach it?
So for me, it'll be a mix of early morning and late night. I have a 2-year-old that runs around upstairs, and I can use. The problem is not like he doesn't run nonstop. The problem is that my monitor or my microphone picks up better than my monitor earphones do. I've got like a nice pair of Sony monitor earphones, but for some reason they're not bassy. So for instance, I even sent through and had like quality checked, listened to the whole thing, sent it to you. And then usually what I do is I've got these really like great like status headphones. And so I put those in like the Status Pros or whatever and get in the shower and take a shower and re-listen to stuff. And man, I'll never forget, because I had done like 3 different versions of the story and had not needed to touch this one scene where I say, I grab my high fragmentation grenade. And then, but I grab my high fragmentation grenade. Boom, 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 boom. I was like, are you kidding me? I've listened to this 10 times probably, like this particular part. And then what's even funnier is like 4 seconds later, it's like boom, 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 boom. I was like, really? So I've got to, and I'm in a good spot. I have a good recording thing. Maybe, it's a bit of my, settings that could be fixed, but being a new narrator, I don't know how to mitigate that stuff. So I just have to re-record over some of it. I got a bit of a creaky chair. I can't stand up when I narrate. And so I have to learn how to be still. Oh, but I just bought this awesome thing. I was actually doing some late night shopping and I found this thing and it can hold. So before the room I'm in, it's a Harry Potter room. So it's like under the stairs. And so I have a monitor that I don't have room to put it in front of me. It's actually beside me. So I'm like recording like this and I'm reading like this. And it's so uncomfortable to do that. So now I have something I can put the Word document on on my phone or on my tablet even, and I can scroll up from there. So that's going to make it a lot easier. But to your very simple question was, how do I plan on attacking this? It's going to be during the quiet hours when my 2-year-old isn't shrekking the upstairs. In a perfect
Nice.
world, once I'm in the Hall of Fame besides people like Travis and that's when I'll have a quieter environment. I actually have a building that I just finished building outside that I need to run power to. That will probably be a quieter room overall when I'm done. I've got a great ground floor, but that mic that I have is a little more sensitive for my house than I expected it to be.
So eventually you plan on being in the shed,
Yes, in the he shed. Yep.
the he shed, which is
Yeah.
critical. I think all guys need a he shed.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited about this thing. I mean, because it's off my house, like 100 yards. I've
Okay.
got a bunch of land out here, so I put a drain down there. I plan on putting a full bathroom and everything. It's funny because people build these really expensive, and you can look up whisper rooms because I mean, why wouldn't you? It's like the Mercedes of quiet places that if you don't have to touch it, they just deliver it and set it up, and they have like vents in them and stuff. But you know what else works? PVC pipe and 2 layers of moving blankets, and you're out like $100. You just have to build it.
Yeah.
And so, the problem is going to be a little bit of airflow, but you set 2 sets of moving blankets, and all you really need is 2 squares built, one bigger than the other, that they can slide into each other, because you really want the moving blankets. JTJ said, like 3 or 4 inches apart, and it murders all sound. And that's
So
what
how are
I'm
you
going
planning
for.
to do for like heating or cooling? Like you got to have something to keep it comfortable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have I double insulated everything in the whole building. And
Okay.
so what I'm hoping I'll be able to do is get the room a comfortable temperature, maybe even a little warmer than necessary. I mean, honestly, in a place like that, if it's closed up, I even insulated the garage doors. If I get it up to like 75 degrees, it's probably going to be 3 hours in there before I'm like, all right, getting chilly. And and it's only like a 900 square foot place. I'll have the whole place heated back up again in 15 minutes,
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think the summer, I don't know how the summer will be. That may be a little harder because, who knows? We'll see. I'll figure the problem out. Besides, I'll
Yeah.
still have this one in here. So, I mean, all I would really need to move is, it's a Mac Mini because it's a quiet little PC and a monitor. You know
Mhm.
what? Somebody else said that, and they said that they'll read for a little bit, and they start getting a little woozy, and it turns out that was the whole issue. That's really that. I had heard that somewhere, and you bringing that up, I'm actually going to write that down right now. I'm actually
That's
illiterate. I'm not
and
going to
that's
write it
funny
down.
because that's something I would have never thought about.
Yeah.
But I know, like you, Daniel Wisnowski, um, probably a vast majority of the narrators that we've talked to within this genre who all started out in their closets with moving
Yeah.
blankets over their clothes and the hangers and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So yeah, that's probably
James
something that
Hunter
all of
sent
you.
out, he was messing around a little bit and sent out a little demo, and like sound levels wise, it was spot on. I mean, it was really, really good. What's
Nice.
really difficult though is you realize that a lot, and yeah, but Paul said, there are ways to provide ventilation with. This is my keyboard toothbrush. This is when I eat those little straws, those little veggie straws.
Oh yeah.
They like explode out of my mouth like I'm the Cookie Monster when I eat them sometimes. So,
Yeah.
but you said there are ways to provide ventilation with sound traps to keep air moving. And yeah, that's what the whisper rooms do. That's why they try and charge. And I'm not saying it's not worth $8,000. I'm saying I don't have $8,000 to do something like that. So,
Right.
but when I get that Hall of Fame money, we'll revisit.
Do a whole new redesign.
Yeah.
So you had you have quite a few voices that are going to be coming up here in this next book. Is there a certain voice that you're worried about?
I was most worried about Brian.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, just because.
Which, for those of you, if you don't remember, Brian has a very small part in the short story, and it's at the very tail end of the short story audiobook that's out right now. But Brian has a huge part in the entire series. So.
Yeah. And it's funny, him and I sat down and talked. So yeah, Paul says, I've been looking into it for Richie, who's narrating his first series as well. And there are ways to do it for way cheaper, YouTube. Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a neighbor that's like a woodsmith, I think those are called carpenters.
Yeah, there's different names for Amish, carpenter.
Yeah. So, to be honest with you, though, I think especially where that is, there's nothing behind it. There's a creek, or as we say in the South, a crick, about 150 yards behind it and down in a ravine. So, woodsmith is correct. There you go. Not in our world. I like that.
Yeah, in the Scalpel universe, it's woodsmith.
So, honestly, though, I will attack these things as they come. I'm not afraid of a challenge. I'm not afraid of, hey, welcome back, buddy. I'm not afraid of calling you and saying, hey, I told you when I was scared of Brian's voice. But, I sat down with Brian and talked with him, and he's like, just get my pacing.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I pause a lot. And if I say something, even if I say it happy, it doesn't really sound that happy, and he's like,
now,
so
JoeDan,
yes,
you need to understand that when you're trying to talk like Brian, he has those pauses where he'll look at you, he'll say something and he'll pause, and then he'll go on.
I mean, like there's ones like really, really good news. It's like, okay, William Shatner. But if you know him, like when you love someone, you want to do it justice. And Brian, just like with you, I connected with Brian like enough so that like I connected with him, and I would go on a vacation with him like right now. If he's like, Joe, I'm going to the mountains. I need you to come with me. I would oh hey,
Miss
how is it going, Miss Agnes? So and he's just one of those people that I love, and I wanted to do him justice. And it's funny because lit RPG and game lit, and this world is so big and so small at the same time. And there's a lot of support and love, and I know that's not in every type of like genre. And like as we grow, I just hope that we really focus on. I mean, and I'm not saying that there's not jerkwads. I'm just saying that the great majority of people are a cruise. are really great. Are very supportive. TJ doesn't let me slack. He's like, "Where you at? Have you written?" I've been writing my butt off. I just broke 75,000 on my book.
Hell yeah, dude!
And I'm excited. I just wrote my first scene, and I won't go into the whole spiel because I don't want to get people fired up. I only need like 3 people asking me where my book is. I don't need 27. But I will say though that I just wrote my first scene where my dragoon uses a 2-handed maul, and he just came down on somebody from about 800 stories, and it was the most satisfying thing to write. I told you when we got on, I was in a good mood because I got to use the term viscera.
Yeah.
Anytime I get to write the word viscera without it being like shoehorned in, I'm a happy man.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome, dude. And yeah, so I mean, that's another great thing about you, man, is you're a writer and a narrator. So you get, it's almost like you have two different sides to understand.
yeah.
You understand the difficulty of writing, but you also, are now narrating.
You know, what helped me with writing is I realized that it's really just stubbornness. And buddy, I got that. Nobody is pettier to me than me. Like if I tell myself if I didn't write all day and I legitimately didn't have a good excuse, I will lay in my bed and type 500 words on my phone and hate it. Typing on my phone makes me want to hit myself in the face with a wiffle ball bat. And but I'll do it as a punishment to say you could have taken 25 minutes out of today and wrote 4, 500, 600 words, but you didn't. And so now you're going to do this and spend an hour doing it on your phone. And then tomorrow you'll take that 25 minutes and write something. But
Right.
if I'm busy, like yesterday, I didn't do much writing, but I was working on my daughter's, I had a legitimate, I didn't feel guilty about not writing. I needed that day. So, but and as far as like the other voices and stuff like that, I think that, I spend a lot of time on YouTube. When I get to a point to where I can spend money on this career outside of the booth that I had to build, which was pretty significant. Um, I will definitely do an accent coach. That will be one. I think for me, that's my biggest weakness, is because I want to immediately sink into a British accent, and I don't need to do that unless I'm doing a British voice, which will probably turn pirate. I don't, who knows what'll happen at that point. So
Well, I think the great advantage you have for at least the Bloodbath series is the only real other voices per se outside the US is Brian and Jez. And you at least have some videos with them here in Legion that you can watch and just listen to their voice and like try to understand their pacing and flow to utilize.
yeah, which will be fine because with jazz, you just throw the word "nutters" in there every once in a while, or "mad," and everyone knows who you're trying to be.
What if you made like a British Mickey Mouse for Jez? Oh, you're just a bunch of nutters.
I should make him like Deep
guys.
South too. Like, all right, listen up, boys.
Southern Jez. That would be. He loves barbecue chips. So
You guys are a bunch of nutters. You mad bastards.
now look here, mate.
Yeah. I'm getting real sick of your crap, mate.
Dear God, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's
That's his actual laugh, though. He does a fake laugh for everyone else. That's actually what he sounds like when he laughs in real life, though.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's jarring. It is jarring.
Nice. So, well, let's do a shift here. Let's talk about your book, man. So, 75,000 words. That's awesome. You were really worried and you were kind of scared that you may not even get to that point, and now here you are.
You know what happened? It's the group. It's us. It's this lit RPG group, man. I talked with Chatfield. I talked with Brian. You push me, Brian pushed me, and when somebody calls me out and I have to say, "Hey, I didn't get a lot done," like I told you, there were days like I didn't get a lot done. They were like, "You'll get it tomorrow." Like there's no like I don't. I don't owe you that. I don't owe you these words. I may not even some days owe it to myself, but in the long run, I have to buckle down and do something. And there's two things that help me. One, getting involved with some of these discords that writers are doing sprints on, and they push each other, and it's a good way to just get the words down, because sprint writing is not worse than sitting there pouring your heart into every word. In some ways, it simplifies what you're trying to do, and you can go back in and add some details if you really want to. But it actually is better writing for me personally than I get when I sit there. I was upstairs and spent an hour and got 600 words. I could have come downstairs and did a 20-minute sprint and did 500, and it would have been fine. The problem is when you're sitting there pouring over your words, you lose the pacing. So sometimes when you go a little bit faster, you get that pacing. And the other thing is that when I got hurt, and I'll show my cool leg off in case people haven't seen it.
I
But
thought for sure you could just have it on the desk.
yeah, so um, but I when I got hurt, I was over there with 2-1 Marines. First vehicle in the convoy got hit. This was 7 months in. We did the first assault on Fallujah. I had seen so much, and so when the first vehicle got hit, I jumped out and went running across the bridge. And a little bit of warning here for any combat vets who are very sensitive to this sort of thing. I won't go into the weeds of it too much, but I will say that I was running across the bridge to try and get to a disabled Humvee that had been hit with a roadside bomb. It was on an overpass, so we couldn't circle the wagons. We couldn't do a cordon. So we couldn't punch through because we had a disabled vehicle, and we knew on an overpass they had another one. So I was kind of hoping they wouldn't blow it on just me. I've been wrong before. This was a little bit more consequential wrong, but I jumped out, went running up, and was kind of I wouldn't let the Marines run near me. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't blow it on one person, but if they're going to do it, it's going to be a radioman, an officer, or a corpsman, and they blew it on me. Yeah, but we knew that. But I had a disabled vehicle and people up there, and no way to get there. And in my mind, I was thinking if I jumped over to the other side, that'd be where the bomb was, So I just punched through, and that morning I had chosen getting my gear ready, and not getting my food ready and eating a real meal before we went back out instead of it's Corpsman life. So I chose food over getting my gear ready that morning. So my 9mm was actually on my hip instead of on my chest. I always kept it on my chest because my med bag went over. It's like a big fanny pack, and it would sit right on my hip. And so I would have to move that to get to my weapon. So I kept my weapon up here, and I didn't like the drop holster on the leg because my
It's
quads were just huge.
and it's just so uncomfortable.
It is. It's deeply uncomfortable. And especially for somebody who's tall like I am. I was 6'4" when I got hurt. I'm 6'3" now. And so that top clip would be all up in my business, if you get what I'm saying. And so I just kept it on my chest. Well, that morning I had it on my hip. It was on my belt. And when I got blown up, there's 3 things that people do when they get good and tagged, not Guten Tag, but good and tagged. Am I dead? Am I, a head staring at my body? Am I eviscerated? You just like, am I dead or imminently dying? Where's my weapon? How's my junk?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's like that. I'm not like, this is 100% of the time. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be like, ho, ho, ho. But it comes down, it's a mindset of, am I dead? Where's my weapon? Because I need my weapon. And how's my quality of life?
I'm still not out of the fight, so
so I need my weapon. But the second the adrenaline starts to drop and you've got people there, you're like, how's my junk? Like, is what is the rest of my life going to be like? And my 9mm was busted into 5 pieces on my hip, and I was missing a left leg above the knee. My right, okay. Some people's priorities are different.
The first one.
So, with me, I was already so jacked up. I was missing the left leg above the knee, or as I said before, it wasn't missing. I knew where it went, but that 9mm was busted in 5 pieces, and this is standard issue 9mm. My 9mm Beretta, this thing was a tank. I mean, an absolute tank, and it got busted into 5 pieces. And that's pretty wild, because that thing would have went through me like butter and I would have been a dead man. They replaced the entire volume of my blood over the next like 4 or 5 days anyway. So not because I bled all the way out, but like they were pumping so much blood into me. And so yeah, I been through some things, and I know how to be stubborn. I know how to be petty, and I know how to push through. And that took about 2 years of me sitting. 18 months of me sitting in a hospital on and off, and really learning a lot about myself. I had one good thing that I did have was time to process, and a lot of guys and gals don't get that when they come home. And I did. I had that. I had a great family, good support system, had a church, sent me deer jerky. If you can't get better on deer jerky, and I've said this before, and I swear by it, you just don't deserve to get better. And so, I had deer jerky, and a family that stuck by me, and a brand new baby, a 3-month-old baby I'd never even held before. When I got hurt, I had one of those like a pin, like a, vote for Pedro, but it had my daughter's ugly face on it in my cargo pocket. And I remember when I reached in there to get my tourniquet, because I worked on myself when I got hurt. Um, I felt that in my pocket, and it was like a bucket of cold water in my face. I was fine mentally right there. I mean, I wasn't, and then I touched it, and it was like, okay, here we go. I got something to get
Yeah.
home to.
Yeah.
It was a grounding
Sometimes
for
your
me.
mind is racing down,
Yeah,
and you need that thing that resets it. Like,
yeah,
hey, dude, nope, let's not go down this
yeah.
road. You have work to do, and that's to patch yourself up, preserve yourself.
And so, I'm such a pro at my ADD. I remember how I got started on all this, and that is, why I started writing that different side in my book. When I got hurt, when all this happened, I spent all this time in the hospital. One of the things that saved me and I'm not trying to say anything about J.K. Rowling at all, because like I separate the art from the artist, whatever. But the Harry Potter series is a masterpiece, and I think most people can objectively admit that that it's well written or it's a fun read. So for me, I read that for the second time in the hospital, and that was my way of zoning out and sort of focusing on a world that wasn't hurting so much, that didn't hurt so much, that I wasn't having to deal with. 11 days before I got hurt, there's a whole thing on that you can find on the internet by Paula Zahn called Pell Rider 3 that talks about my unit. We got absolutely decimated, lost most of my second squad on Labor Day of 2004. Fox Company 2-1. And that was awful. And, that was 11 days before I got hurt. And so on top of that, I'm having to deal with all these things. I'm having to deal with being a brand new father, and I needed books. I needed books. And that's what got me through it. When I was a young kid and didn't know how to focus and was getting in trouble at school, not for my mouth. Well, yeah, for my mouth. I was always respectful to my teachers. My teachers all loved me, but I'm sure they wanted to like wring my neck. But I found what's up, Paul? I found a book by Dean Koontz called Twilight Eyes that I did not even understand a third of, but I read it and I liked the way it made me feel to read something that was a little spooky and a little. So that actually tied in, that sort of like feeling of I liked being a little on edge there. And so when I started writing my book, I wanted to write. I mean, do you remember? Did you ever read Dungeon Lord by Hugo Huesca? So he starts out, and the whole thing is almost, I don't want to say Lovecraftian, but it's a little, it's a little, out there. And I kind of wanted to touch on that. And I like books that make you feel. I want to be vulnerable. I want to talk about mental illness in my book. And I know people read books to get I know people read books to get away, but sometimes it's fun to read something and when someone, it is a peek into their soul. It hits different. When you like I'm rereading 10 Realms now, because I've met Chatfield now, and I know more about him.
Yeah.
I wish I had waited to read Silver's, Quest Academy before, until I met Brian, but I will get a chance. The second one's coming out soon, so he just started dropping that.
Yeah. Well, and it's
info.
interesting because I hung out with Matt Denneman first, and I'm really blessed because I got to spend hours with him in Vegas. Just pretty much he and I, which was funny because we were joking that I was his personal security, and even others around, like as we walked up there, like, is he your bodyguard? And we were like, yeah. And then he also like jokingly referred to me as his wife. So I got to be his stand-in wife. But
she's way prettier than you. I'm like, no offense, but
but getting to spend quality time with Matt and then reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, I just
Yeah.
loved it so much more. So I just
You
finished
know,
it today.
and so reading, reading that stuff after you meet people is great. And I'm not going to make the whole book serious. Like, for instance, I literally laughed. It feels a little like aggrandizing to laugh at the stuff that you write. But I wrote that scene where, he comes down and just absolutely obliterates the entire upper body of this creature. And then, he's got a like an AI set of goggles that like, anyway, and it says to him, he's going to feel that in the morning. And I was like, no, he's not. Like, and for some reason, because the original idea
Well, that's
was,
where you just go in and change it. He's not going to feel that in the morning.
yeah, well, what's funny is the original line was holy crap, dude. Like that was, and then I was like, it'd be even funnier if he's like, he's gonna feel that in the morning. It's like, no, he's not. It's funny because my main character kind of plays the straight man, like the only guy who realizes how ridiculous all this is, so it's kind of fun to write that character.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, so 75,000 words, man. Like,
Yeah, man.
do you have the end of the book in mind? Like, do you see yourself getting to that full arc completion, or how are you kind of approaching it all?
Is it so? I had a very simple idea, but I'm a pantser by nature. I wrote out a very robust, like 7,000. Some people would say that's not robust at all, but I wrote a nice 7,000 outline because I needed to do my pantsing there to just keep me on pace. And I've deviated off of that a fair amount, but I kept the pace because that's what I was going for. So like, there's some things that I replaced. Like the guy that I just pasted was somebody I intended on having come back, but the scene was just too perfect. And I had it in my head. And so I'll just work in another character to take the part of what he was supposed to be there for. And
Okay.
so, how often do you deviate from my story? Has definitely gotten more complex because, when I wrote the outline, I was at 30,000 words and had never written a book before. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of experience now, not just for anybody can sit down. And for me as a pantser, 30,000 is the scary point. It's like, okay, now it's a real story. And
Like,
I
you've
need
gotten
to,
into the woods, into the wilderness,
yes.
and
Yeah,
I
you're in
don't
mid
have a
game now.
compass.
You're getting close to act 2. And that's when, if you don't have an act 2, you don't have a book. That's the stuff. That's the Harry Potter going through all his classes, that that slice of life that pulls people into that commonality. Like, yeah, we've all been there, had hard teachers and people picking on you. And that act 2 is where you really meet out the world. That's where you really flesh everything out. And as a pantser, a brand new writer, let me go ahead and tell you, if you can get past that 30,000 mark and get it around 50, it gets so much easier. But it did get much more complex. And I like that. I like that I got more complex and that I got to a point to where, you see a little bit, there's some people that you read a book and you're like, this is a human being that is beyond me.
Yeah.
Like Brandon Sanderson or Stevie, somebody that can put 27 threads together into a story. Even George R.R. Martin to a point, like to keep up with that much is beyond what I think I'm capable of now. But I've started to realize a few things, and I realize this with narration and with writing. The finishing touches does a lot. It does a lot. I
Mhm.
remember feeling like the audiobook sounded kind of like crap to me. Not really. I was like, I felt like it just didn't feel right. And then I went through and fixed the volume levels. And for some reason, that little thing of just making where everything was in the same general level made it feel, I don't remember the percentage I used, but it was like 40% more professional than it was. And I was like, this may not be perfect for where I want it, but I could go through anything and nitpick. I can listen to something, by JTJ or Travis Baldry and be like, I would have done this. Obviously, they know what they're doing. I don't. But, I realize, and you said it yourself, if they don't like it, they can make their own book. And I
I did
love
say
that.
that.
I love
Yep.
that because I'm not somebody that really like beats myself up. I don't dip into the past too often, but I started for a moment. I started overthinking things a little bit, and just pulled me right back out of it. If they don't like it, they can do it themselves. They can send me money. I'll redo the book any way they want.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where, man, I've had to get to that point to a certain degree because it's just like, oh, well, this. Fine, do it your fucking self. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm, like I am trying to finish a book, and what's interesting is I'm working with someone else or helping them with a side project, and it has to do with analysis on some stuff, and it did some analysis, and he was like, well, what do you think? I'm like, yep, that's kind of hitting exactly what I wanted to. So book 3 of the series is going to be kind of a combination of all of it, right? So it starts out very emotional, and I was just like, Richie Stevens, stat on stats, is like, dude, this is the most brutal book in all of lit RPG that I've ever read.
Mhm.
He's like, there's brutal, depressing, and you are just, or he's like, there's dark, depressing, and you are just dark, brutal. And I was like, yeah. And so I'm actually like right at the borderline of when we're about to switch into act 2 of book 3. And then act 3 is just going to be like balls to the wall.
Yeah.
How's I getting down there? But yeah, there's times where someone may be like, well, you should have done this or you should have done that. You know what? It's still my story. Do it yourself. Do your own. If you don't
And
like
as
what I
you
did,
build,
then do
as you build the characters up too, you actually lose a little bit of control. I mean, as a writer, your story, your characters are gonna do, and you have to be true to those characters. Nothing is going to, nothing would have ruined. If Tyrion had went around and started giving candy out to all the other lords, it just would have been like it's so out of character. Like, why? What is he? Is he trying to make friends or bribe them? Or you take Snape and you have him giving lollipops out to everybody in Gryffindor. Like, not to circle back around with the same analogy, but you have to stay true to your characters, and so I think that's one reason why, although my story is changing, it's adapting to a flow. And
Yeah.
so, and that 30,000 mark that I was talking about, it's the problem is with pantsers like myself, I've got a couple of 20, 30,000 starts that I've done. But if you sit in that world, you'll never grow it if you don't sit in that world. And so
Yes.
I sat in that world, and I've got a whole nother series planned, and I'm not even done with book 1 on this one. And it
That's
was
how
all
it works.
stemmed off a meme that somebody dropped about, well, the idea was there, but when somebody dropped the meme, I was like, I'm going to I'm going to finish this out in my head. But somebody dropped a meme about there's an NPC in the starting area of every game that all you needed to do was spend 8 minutes of your life and it would change his life forever. And I was like, there's an NPC, like his son's stuck in a cave. You just spend 8 minutes, go get him. And he's just sitting there like, and I was like, that is a wonderful idea. And I'll tell you
And the
about it later.
NPC like knows the god of the world that created it because he was there at the very beginning.
Maybe. See, you can take that same idea and come up with it. And in fact, I'll leave you alone until you flesh that out, because I don't want you getting trapped by my mindset. Like
Oh
I
no,
asked him
like
for help with a part on my story, and I didn't tell him anything about what I was thinking, and
Mhm.
he actually gave me a much better. Him and I are idea people. We bounce
Who's this,
ideas off
Brian?
each other. No, this was actually a buddy of mine, Sean, who's my pocket artist. He's going to do my cover art.
Oh, nice. Okay.
He's incredible, dude.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, so you were talking about how like you deviate off. That happens because maybe you're like Golgoth here on the shirt, right? Like
Yeah.
Golgoth is, creepy and he's weird and he's like, no, let's go down this trail. There is something else for us. And it's like, okay, well, I didn't really plan on going here, but as long as we get to Point Hotel,
Yeah.
in between India and Juliet, like who really cares?
Yep.
And so you allow the characters to bring some influence into the story, as long as you still get to the end, that you don't drop those plates that you've already started to spin at the beginning.
Mhm.
you know, because that's I think the biggest problem is, well, we started spinning all these plates and then we just ignored them and we just kept going. It's like, well, no, dude, what about all these things? You have to have some closure to some of the things you've generated. So yeah, that's all a part of the fun of it, man.
And I've still got some problems. Like, for instance, because of my idea for book 2 in my series, I've got to introduce some old tech into 1 because I don't want it to go from a desert setting to, a like sort of like a spacier setting without letting my reader know what's happening beforehand, you know?
Mm.
Because I've got some surprises. I've got, at one point I have a herd of cats that show up, there's some little things in there that I'm going to do that are a bit of a toss. They're not out of nowhere. You understand, but when it first happens, you're like, what's he doing? And a lot of times you also, I'm 42. So, sometimes you write humor that is not going to hit with everybody, but the people it does hit with, it's going to really hit with.
That is one of my biggest fears is comedy and humor because it's so subjective.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a big Dave Chappelle fan, but I know so many people that are. So yeah, there's times where you're writing, you're like, I hope they see the humor in this and get it.
Like, I've got a scene where one of the, he attacks someone and just absolutely gets like, are you kidding me? Like, that was pathetic. And the guy's like disappointed, genuinely disappointed. So my main character screams, "You're not my dad." It's supposed to be sort of like, a funny moment. And actually I think that so I originally, my idea that was a setup joke for them to have to run from that character, that same guy that I pasted. I was going to have him run and, "Hey, Ryan, what's up, buddy?"
Sexy Ryan.
But I had that whole scene set up because at the end of that, when they finally got away, somebody's going to be like, "He absolutely smashed you." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm not going to call him dad, even if there's a fire," like from Step Brothers.
Yeah.
And I was like, now I can't use that joke, but I still got it's funny though, because, there's humor that's going to hit with some people. I have a reference to the movie Ghost in here.
Jeez.
And it's going to seem a little silly, but it's just one line. So it's not like somebody's going to read that and be like, "That's stupid, I'm putting this book down," And if they do, they can write their own book.
Yep. That's exactly it. You know what? You don't like it, write it your damn self then.
Yeah.
So,
man, everybody in here's just all complimenting. As a side note, the gym bro culture has spread out into the world. The positive side of that, where I will absolutely tell a man that he looks amazing, dude, and absolutely mean it. It's like, what? I don't know what has happened, but I love it. I love that men can be like, "Dude, where'd you get those arms at, man? Keep going, making me look small."
Dude, absolutely. It's one of those things where you guys rarely get compliments so much. And so for me, I have my buddy, actually, how far into book 1 did you read?
I think 3 chapters. I'm gonna burn through it right now because I want to reread it right before I do it. So I'm going to read it now and then do a reread through. Like I said, I'm finishing up the tail end of 10 Realms now because I told you I have 30% left in that book.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to just do that because I want to read that one and do the voices in my head and try to figure out how I'm going to play it out.
Yep. So there's Thomas, who is the physical fitness instructor for Trevor.
Yeah.
And Thomas is based off of one of my good friends. And in the book, I describe him as a Greek god. And I have the photo. I did a photo shoot of Thomas personally as his photographer because I was learning those skills. I'll send you 1 or 2 photos when you're doing the narration so you can visualize.
Are we about to share topless shots?
Yeah, he's completely top because he did a bodybuilding competition.
Oh yeah.
And so one of my favorite photos I've ever taken is him in the hotel room flexing and posing in the mirror right after his tan. And he's just a beautiful fucking human being.
Yeah.
And his personality, he's one of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet in your life. And so I did my best to convey that, but it's like, nah, dude, like I can say that dude is sexy, handsome, attractive, whatever, because, you know, who knows what's going on in his life. I might as well give him some praise here.
You know, it's funny though, because you know, you don't realize how, yeah. See, that's it. You just throw the references. Oh yeah. Who are you? I'm Batman. You know, and for me, I had a friend of mine that I did a reference shots for because they wanted. I'm more of a. You've met me. I'm more of a brawler build. I'm no Ryan Reynolds. Um, but I did a show, and I'm pretty like
I
squared
did
off.
see
That's
those
just
photos. Yeah.
and so they had me take shots holding a cigar, um, for some stuff that they wanted to do, and and so I did all this really uncomfortable like topless, you know, art, and it was never used. So I put myself way out of my comfort zone for no good reason, other than the fact that I now, for some reason, have some semi-artful pictures of myself leaning against a sink holding a cigar
Yeah. Well, what's
that I
funny
don't
is when
smoke.
Thomas was at his competition, I was supposed to be backstage with him. That was the original plan. And then,
Oh
of
yeah,
course, the event didn't let me. So we're going and grabbing a bite to eat after. And he's like, yeah, dude. So I had this guy that came up to me and was trying to get me to fill out this form. And, you know, hey, man, we could totally use you. You know, go ahead and fill it out. We'll contact you. He's like, oh, okay. So he like goes to start filling it out. And one of the other bodybuilders comes over. He's like, bro, that's for porn. They're wanting to use you for porn. So if you don't want to do that, then forget that. He's like, yep, not.
that guy
They,
found out the hard way, didn't he?
who knows? Who knows?
So those right there, those are
Mhm.
two, and they say best poser. And I have them on my wall, not because I'm proud of the fact that I posed really well, but because I love the idea of being an award-winning poser.
Yeah,
I'm probably the only award-winning poser you know.
that would be fair. Yeah, I've never heard anyone else who's like, dude, I got best pose.
It's a weird thing to brag about, but you know,
Well, but here's the other thing is like people don't understand how physically taxing it is to pose. It is not easy. Hours upon hours of work.
if anyone knows how to fix a copy machine, Ryan is having issues with his copy machine.
Oh, okay. So everyone, if you know how to, actually, you know what? We can fix that.
Ryan's scared now. Rip his inbox. Y'all, my name's Jez.
Oh, I have to
I'm
edit
here.
it. Hold on. There we
Oh,
go.
did you
Save.
make one?
There you go.
Nice.
Just for you, Ryan. So yeah, Ryan has got some copy machine issues. Anyways, yeah, dude, it's and that's like every endeavor, whether you want to be an author, whether you want to be a narrator, bodybuilder, like there's no easy, quick road to success. It just takes hours upon hours of studying the craft.
And writing, if there's one thing I will say to you fellow pantsers, stay in the same world. Just long enough to know that you can do the act 2 of a book. Because once you can do that, I don't know, other pantsers in here, like once you get through, you slog through that part, that fear, that 30,000 fear, it's like it all comes together. I'm so excited to write the next series because I feel like it's going to be twice as easy to get a first draft out. You know, that's the slog. Once you get done with the first draft, you need an editor. I need a copy editor, now, but I'm not ready to drop the money on it until I'm going to finish my first, or not copy. I need see, he's got me excited about that copy machine, a development editor. That's something that I'm going to need, for mine. But I'm going to finish this first draft because I'm not going to get caught up in the weeds of trying to perfect, the first, 65, 70% of my book. I'm going to finish the book and then we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
That's future Joe's problem.
Yep.
This Joe don't even care about that guy.
Yeah, don't put the cart before the horse, man. Like,
Oh.
I need this, bro. You need a full manuscript first.
Yeah.
There's things where I think, talking to Shammy Stovall, like, hey, what's the biggest thing that new authors need help with? And she was like, just finishing the damn manuscript. Well, maybe she didn't say damn manuscript. I added that part, but that's the biggest thing is get to the end of it. Don't stop.
Because it takes a long time to get good enough to write a good book, but you can always edit a book good. If you've got the bones of the story in there and you've got believable characters and you try to make sure and throw all 5 to 7 senses in a chapter at some point, you've got something that people will read.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the other thing too, is if you see a book that has low ratings or whatever, and none of them talk about grammar or spelling, it's the story, right? So that's where, hey, so when I went editor shopping and you go through, you see some of their work posted, I would go through the Amazon reviews and I would look for the negative ones and just what did any of the negative ones have anything to say about the editing, the grammar, any of that stuff? And nope. Okay, well then it was the story, not the editor that they didn't like.
Yeah.
So
one of the groups that I do sprints with, Ryan's in there with me, and Demi's in there too. Bro, Demi did a 1,226 word, 25-minute sprint.
That's insane.
Now, I don't know how much of that was like he moved one part from another chapter over. I asked him, I was like, what were you sprinting with us when he did that, when he dropped that? I was like, Demi's in here crushing 1,200 words in 25 minutes. We're just here for the scraps. Like, like I even had a good one. I was like 625 or 636 or something like that. And I was like, you doubled one of my, oh yeah, that was a big fatty. That was one.
I've done it. I've done that, but it's normally a combat scene. And you know exactly what's going on. So that's where you're literally in the character's mind and you're going through the thing like, his axe glided just over me while I twisted around. And you can just fly through that.
Yeah. If I had, and Dakota actually does voice for all his, and I actually did one and hit 900, which is my fastest sprint. Yeah, but I'm also semi deviated. Yeah, you're usually between. Yeah, that's pretty good. 8, 9. I'm usually between 5 and like 650.
For a 25-minute sprint.
Yeah, 25-minute sprint.
Dang, dude.
And honestly, it's usually I can't do that at the start of a chapter, but once because every chapter for me is a bit of a pants.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a pants, and so once I get it's really just that 30% mark, man. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, man, if you're a writer and you want to get serious, get in a sprint that's active, and I think the sweet spot for me is about 20-25 minutes. 15s are okay, but like I mentally my brain will go for like 20-25 minutes. I think that's a good perfect sprint.
No, honestly, like the more I've written, the more I would agree with that 100%. But it really depends on the flow state.
Yeah.
Because when I was writing full time, man, I could sit down for an hour and a half and just fucking go. Now that I have a 9-to-5 job and I only have 2 hours in the morning, like 20-minute, 30-minute, hour session, and then I take a break. So, yeah.
Well, I love it, man. I'm excited. I as soon as I sent in that cold read and you guys passed it around. I mean, it was really encouraging for me to know that there were multiple people, whether they were drinking or not is irrelevant, but that were amused and enjoyed the cold read. And you definitely helped. Yeah, Jez does 20 minutes till Chatfield shows up. Then he goes to 25 because Chatfield likes 25s. But Jez doesn't turn his words in either, so nobody knows. For people who don't know, a sprint is on Discord. There's a thing called Sprinto, and you literally just say, /sprint, and it'll do a preset time, and you you can do \words and you put your starting words. Brian saved me because I was writing on my master, and watching the huge number just barely go up was blowing my mind. So, I write in its own chapter. So, mine are normally between, 1 and 3,500 or 1 and 4,000 or so. But you type in where you are, and then you type in where you're at afterwards. And it kind of ranks everybody, but you do about 5 or 6 sprints, and it's almost exactly the exact same every time. Ryan, if Dimmy's up, he's on top. If Ryan's there, he's usually next. And then it's usually me and Chatfield are about the same. Jez has big numbers every once in a while. Yeah, you and Chris in the background sending annoying messages nonstop. Yeah, it's really funny because it'll say words turned in, Jez 0, and then under that he's like, damn it. It's within like 10 seconds every time.
That's funny.
So funny. Find you a sprint though, man. Find you a sprint somewhere if you're a rider, man. Jump in there and do it, because that encouragement and that competition, I can let me down because I don't give a rip about me. But when TJ is like, hey, where you at? When Brian's like, let's jump on a call and talk about your story. I can't do that and be like, yeah, I haven't written in 3 days, and so mentally it's like, I always need to be prepared, because the thing is when you get in a group of people that are this supportive, it's hard for somebody like me who's never finished a book. And so like this narration thing, like I can say I'm a narrator now. I've done a project, and it's so important to have that under your belt. And so
what's even great is this thing is for free on YouTube. So literally pass this thing around. Like, you're welcome to share it, post it wherever you want. Let people know that there's this great story that they can anticipate in next year.
Yeah. And it's only going to get better. This is my first big, it's a 38-minute project, and then this is the first time that I've ever done anything like this. So we're going to sit down. Your feedback is super, super encouraged. Please comment. Let us know what's going on, what you thought about it. Just be constructive. You can call me an idiot. Just tell me why afterwards. And if you think I don't know that, you haven't been paying attention.
Right.
But, you get involved with a group. It's really supportive. And because I can, like I said, I can let myself down because I don't care about me. But when you find yourself consistently surrounded by good people, it's because they see you as that way. They say they feel like you belong. It is making his way. He just does get better and better. And I think it's because he's surrounded himself with some pretty annoying people. He's like, I've got a right to get away from these people.
Pretty much.
But, like you said, same thing with the narration. You got to put yourself on a schedule, man. You got to put yourself on a schedule.
The routine, like, no shit. Like, I know I talk about it on my weekend updates. 3:25 in the morning, my alarm clock goes off. And I actually now have someone else who they will Facebook message me at 3:30 because they asked me, they're like, I need help with an accountability partner to make sure I am writing. Yeah. So 3:30 in the morning, they are messaging me because it's 6:30 for them on the East Coast. And it's like, hey, are you up? Yeah, man, you ready to go? And so we are kind of having somewhat of a sprint session, but it's really just an accountability for the next 2 hours of like, where are you at? What did you get done? And there was one day where they were telling me, they're like, well, I'm doing this. I'm like, nope, don't do that. Get to writing. You get to do that once you're done with your writing. You're exhausted, and that's going to be a reward for writing. And he's like, oh, I like that. I was like, all right, there you go. So, yeah. 3:30 in the morning.
I want to touch on a couple of things. I want to talk about what's upcoming. How I initially got started in all this was a couple of conversations with Michael Head. So hopefully I'll be working with him in the future. I've had some good handshake deals with other people. I won't drop names yet to give them an opportunity to back out. But I've got some really, some pretty cool stuff that I'm looking forward to. I can't wait to be able to share. I would love for you to drop the YouTube link on here for those who haven't had a chance to hear it yet. I'd love for you guys to give this a listen. Let us know what you think. You can make fun of my Brian accent at the end, or my New York accent at the beginning. And I would love for you, because I personally support you, I would love for you to drop your Patreon. I know that's not something you push, but I feel
I
like a
don't.
lot of people. I know, but I would like to give other people an opportunity because you've pushed other people. You have absolutely jumped out of your way and out of your comfort zone to help me. And so if even if somebody just signs up just for updates, if it's $1, whatever, like drop the Patreon on here so that you give people an opportunity to bless people that are positive in this community.
No,
I think the
you don't
world
get
of
to
you.
tell me what to do, JoeDan.
I'm asking you as a favor. I haven't asked you for
Um,
any
do, you-
favors.
do you all see, like, here's the narrator coming out on him where he totally changed his voice, like soft puppy dog. Like, I'm just asking you if you would.
TJ, it would mean the world to
It will
me.
mean the world to me and the Union as we go out to the battlefild.
I'm gonna go. I could die out there. I need
I
you to
could
drop your
die out there.
Patreon.
John A. Douglas, hail to you, good sir. Geneva Agnos pictures of the violence you are willing to dole out to mere trolls, much less.
Ryan, that's a lot of work. I'm saving that. I'm not. It's. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I just, if you get me mad enough to actually do something, everyone around me is going to be mad because they know that it takes a lot to get me there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, my Patreon members, dude, like I am so blessed and I am continually amazed. Like you just joined, right? We have Aoife Way, who, another author within the Lit RPG community. She's our newest member. So we now have 9 in the Patreon. And literally the Patreon members over the last couple months have funded the editing for Bloodbath. Like, to me, it's so I look at it like this is a community book where your guys' support directly helped get this book to the next level. But yeah, and then my Saturday updates and everything, I do my best to try to have a great Patreon community. So yeah, I'm blessed. But
Yeah, you are active and you're dropping stuff all the time, especially if you're reading Bloodbath. That's the way to stay ahead on it.
yeah,
But you were
oof.
really active. I mean, and I've been a part of Patreons for people that were, for games and all sorts of stuff. And you're definitely one of the more active ones that
I
I've
don't know
seen.
about that. I don't know about that because I mean, so actually that's something else that the Patreon community has done is I have now subscribed to other Patreons
Yeah,
of authors, and so the funds that I'm given from my supporters automatically gets deducted to them.
yeah,
So other authors within the Lit RPG are being supported as well from the dying breed. The
yeah.
names of those people up there,
I mean,
and
I
those
don't
other
mind
authors.
circling money at all. I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
when the first thing that I did, after we settled, the short story was Patreon with you, and I jumped on the shop and started looking at stuff too. I'm gonna end up buying something off of there too. Like it's just, that's just what I think people should do for each other. If somebody gives me $50, I want to do something with 30, 25 of that at least.
yeah. Well, that's what's funny because I was just about to bring up this guy who's coming on the live stream here. I think next week we're doing it with Steven. This dude is dropping tons of content
Yeah.
where, like, I'm not going to lie, Steven, I almost am about to make a rule in my Outlook to where all Patreon updates are going into a folder because, like, it's almost every day. It's like, boom, here's more, here's more. This dude is nonstop giving to his community and supporters.
That's awesome.
Him, Kevin Sinclair, like the guys that I am following are just tons of content. So one day I hope to be as great as they are because they're just crushing it with stuff.
It's a good community, man. It's a
So
good community of people and it's pushing each other. And I love it. I love it. I feel like I got involved at the right time. I mean, there's the fear of this AI narration and stuff like that, but I think most people can agree. I hope so, at least, that I don't want to hear a love story from someone who's never been hurt before. I don't want to hear a war story from someone who's never felt fear. I just it doesn't I attribute it to eyes in video games. It doesn't matter how good the graphics are. There's no spirit behind the eyes. There's nothing there. And the games can look good and amazing, and they are getting better. But you could take a picture on a Game Boy Advance, and the eyes are better in that picture of yourself that you took on a Game Boy Advance than they are in GTA 6. You know, there's just something missing out of it.
Yeah. No, for sure, dude. I mean, come on, like this book series is written by an Air Force veteran with one brain cell, and it's narrated by a Navy veteran with one leg. Like AI can never touch that.
No.
So I love Landry's Otreon. I think that's Patreon. So active. I just look forward Mondays and Wednesdays with his posts. Yeah, dude, he's dropping content all the time. Yeah.
If so for anybody who does jump on TJ's Patreon and supports him, I'd be more than happy to do a dramatic reading for you of anything that you want read. I'd be more than happy to do that. Just keep it around a paragraph, 100 words or less. I'll put it in a file and send it to you. I'll do your voicemail for your phone, whatever.
Dude,
I'll do this
hilarious.
Southern jazz. Hi, this is Jazz.
This is Jazz Kajio.
You bloody nutters.
Have you ever had Jazz's barbecue chips?
Emmanuel, except for harem. No harem. No 50 Shades of Gray if possible. I'm not going to talk about other people's junks.
When am I going to write a Yeti story? You know, dude, actually, you know what? Steven, I'm glad you said that because, hold on here. As every writer knows, notebooks are everywhere.
Yeah.
So for the Patreon members that know, there is a third project that has already it was on the whiteboards that I had to take down because they were like about to fall off. Stephen Landry is going to be in the book, and he is going to be associated to a Yeti. And that's all I'm going to fucking say. But what JoeDan must have hit his mouse again, because this is literally, he dropped out 10 seconds before we went live. And yeah, see, he's back again. So
did it again.
I was just telling him, I'm like, this is what happened. So yeah, so
this is super sensitive. So I barely touch it and it goes back.
Yeah. So yeah, Stephen Landry is gonna be associated to a Yeti. Nice. In what am I gonna call this? What have I called it before? Project something. So once I am done writing Bloodbath series, which we're at 41,000 words of book 3. Oh God, Stephen, no.
1 cup.
No. Oh, I don't even want to bring this on screen.
But yet you did.
If you know, you know. If you don't ask.
Definitely don't Google it.
But yeah, so once I'm done with book 3, we're at 41,000 words. That's when I'm jumping right into this third project. And
how fat is book 1? I forgot to ask.
How fat?
Yeah, how big is book 1?
It's like 126 or 130,000.
Good.
Yeah. So.
Ryan, you need help, bud. White Harry Richards. We're professionals. They're Richards in here, bud.
Ryan is definitely the redheaded stepchild to the dying breed.
I've been a redheaded stepchild. It's a rough game.
But we love you.
It's a rough game.
Yeah. But yeah, dude. So the Yeti stuff is gonna be in the works for sure. I'm excited about it. And there's only one other person that knows some of the details, and he was literally bugging me of like, dude, when are you gonna write this story? And I was like, I will finish Bloodbath first. I want to have a completed series, and then I will jump into this. And honestly, I think, not that I don't love you, JoeDan, I think the voice actor that I want to try to get for this project would be Steve Campbell.
Oh man, Steve's incredible. You
I
know,
love Steve as a
he
person.
makes it look so easy that you think that you can be as good as him sometimes because he makes it look so easy. And
Mhm.
I'll never forget the first time I spoke with him. He switched between a northern Irish accent into a southern Irish accent into a Scottish accent in one sentence
Mhm.
and broke me like a pony. There's nothing about me that makes me think I could ever do that. And that's Steve Campbell. For me, what's really funny is I'm not my favorite narrator. I think that JTJ or has anyone heard the full cast version of American Gods? The guy who
No.
plays Shadow, his name is Daniel Oreskes, I think it is. His voice, man, holy cow. He does. He
Yeah.
works hard. I sat in and watched him the other day. He is incredible.
Yeah.
He's
So that's
incredible.
where like beginning of the year. Actually, as soon as I'm done with Bloodbath,
Mhm.
I'm probably just going to like fly up to his house and picket his house until he
Yeah,
agrees to narrate my book.
there
Yeah.
you go. That's the
I
way
think
to
that'll
do
be
it.
it.
It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he didn't end up in the Hall of Fame himself. You know,
He's already in my Hall
it.
of Fame,
Yeah, there you go.
you know?
I haven't heard Dead Tide. I want to, but I told TJ that I was going to finish everything that I was going on and dive right into Bloodbath. I just wanted to go into it with. I usually read 3 or 4 stories at a time.
Why? He's on my Facebook, Geneva.
Steve's on. He sat. I was even a brand new narrator, had never even had a small project, and he jumped on a call with me for over an hour and
Oh,
just
yeah.
spent that. I mean, really seriously wonderful guy. And when people invest in me like that, I'm like, I'm going to get something done. I'm going to do work because I'm not going to be on the phone. Like, I'm not going to try and get, somebody who's trying to run their own business to sit down and, write their own books to sit down
When
and
you
spend
want to
time with me
romantically
and not do
stalk
something
someone,
with it.
Geneva, you fly to their fucking house.
Yeah.
And granted,
You,
the Patreon members may have to pay for this because I can't
yeah.
afford it, but that's when you know there's love. And we have the same haircut,
Yes.
Steve and I. Yeah. But no. So, anyways, getting back to what you're saying. Well, again, it comes back to the community where it's
Yeah.
like, hey, do you have 5 minutes to help me? What you got? And then, yes, you are that type of person of like, you gave me your time and
Yeah.
I know how valuable this is. I am not going to squander or waste it. I am going to take action now.
Yeah. And that was the hard thing is like I had so many people taking me more seriously than I took myself, and it was a gut check. I realized that in weird way I was kind of being a coward about it. You know,
Mm.
it's scary to just throw your art out there. Tim Hortons. It's scary to just throw stuff out there and not be able to make somebody love you first. It's easy for me to meet somebody and if there's a connection, then be like, hey, we should do some work together, or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
But I never want to be the one, at least until I finish a project, to be like, hey, let's do this together. You know, like there's some people I would love to write with. I would love to write with or work with Eden Hudson in any way. I feel like Eden Hudson has the most amazing protagonist that exists. She writes the most incredibly interesting broken people. And anytime I've asked her who was the influence for that, she's like, "It's me. I'm so messed up."
Oh,
and, and I mean, honestly, she's kind of a sleeper. Unless you've read, she plays such a slow con on Jubal Van Zant that you just think that he's a cliche rogue type character. And it takes you almost to the very end of the first book before you start scratching your head trying to figure him out. It's like he plays it so straight for so long that it takes you forever to go like, this guy's not right. Like,
mm-hmm.
I'm 500 pages into this guy before I'm going like, what is up? Like, he's got some things going on. And then, you start realizing, I mean, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Love, stalking, borderline worthy of a
Here's
restraining
the
order.
thing in Oregon, where I am at, I get to basically stalk you. Like, you have to give me 3 warnings on separate times before you can take civil action.
Mhm.
I feel like Canada's probably the same, where if anything, they're more lenient. Like, oh,
Yeah.
hey there, bud, could you just, stop following me everywhere?
Well,
No,
sorry
Steve,
about
I love
that.
you. You
You
need to
just
read
say
my book.
sorry.
Yeah.
You just they actually they'll drop it from a felony to a misdemeanor.
They'll just give you syrup, a handshake, and a hug, and be like, "Okay, you have a great day there, bud. Have fun down in the northern states, yeah."
Oh man.
It doesn't let me know where. That would be hilarious since I'm in an apartment, Kyle, and there's only
Eagles.
like 2 foot of grass for my front yard. So I would love to see you like try to fit a tent,
That's twice as many feet as I have.
literally. That's funny. So, all right, man. Well, what else do you want to talk about tonight? We're almost at 2 hours now.
Yeah, it went. It was flowing. You were crying before. No, not really. But no, it's. I knew it was going to be a flow. You were like, yeah, had a lot going on. Didn't have time to prepare anything. I was like, with you and me, we don't need to prepare anything. It's just going to be fine.
Exactly.
Emmanuel Quinones said he wants me to narrate some of his book. I haven't read anything by you. I don't know if you've got a book that you're writing or whether or not you've got
He needs
something
to
done.
finish it, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Love you, Q.
But if
get back to slamming the keyboard there, bro.
Let's do it, man. Get on, do those sprints.
Do those exactly.
Sprints, please.
Get on those sprints, Q. Get on those sprints. You know what has excuses?
The only kind of sprints I do these days.
It's the only kind, yeah. Oh, hello. Here's your shot of maple syrup. Now let's do a sprint. That's British. That's definitely British. See, this is why I'm not the narrator and you are.
Yeah.
And also, as we were talking about of like checking in on people, I checked in on someone else who has been on my stream. And I was like, dude, I haven't heard from you in a while. How's it going? What's going on? And they just messaged me as we were live. It's like, dude, I'm so sorry. I don't get on this account much recently. And yeah, so I definitely check in.
I remember TJ's first, but the first guilty one that I ever had to reply to. He's like, I haven't heard from you in 5 days. Well, it wasn't. I was actually back on the wagon, but I did if he'd done it the first 2 days, he'd have caught me just flat-footed, and I would have had nothing. But I did catch myself and it circled back around to it. So,
yep.
Well,
I try as best as I can these days, dude. Going back to that 9 to 5, like with Brian, like Brian and we did a video chat the other day, and it was the first time in 2 months, the first time since Vegas.
Oh, really?
That he and I saw each other. Before, it was like every other week that we would do a video chat with each other. So it was the longest period of time that we had gone in the last year. And I was like, dude, I get it, man.
It's really serendipitous.
And writing at the same time, it is exhausting, but we still do it because we love it.
Well, like me sending you that cold read, you were actually on a call with some people when it happened, right? Or you sent it to Brian, who was on a call. Whatever it was kind of lucky timing.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. So that was the funny thing too. I sent it to him, and then he sent it to someone else, and then someone else sent it to someone else. So yeah, you definitely got passed around like a, someone in a Navy port.
Like a jabroni.
But yeah, that's how you know. Dude, again, man, you crushed this audiobook, and I am super excited. I almost wish we were just done with editing, that you could get the books and start. And at first I was like, okay, we'll edit books 1, 2, 3, January, February, March, then you'll get them. And I was like, no, fuck. As soon as book 1 is done, like, you're getting it. Because, I want you to have some fun with this, and I'm excited.
Yeah, man. Heck yeah. Maybe we'll hear some, if hopefully if there's a boop, 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 we'll just work it into like a helicopter sound or something like that.
I don't think there's any helicopters in the first one, is there?
There will be when I'm done.
Well, yeah, right? Like, just more helicopters.
He's like asleep under the, in a dome under the water. All of a sudden, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
Actually, my 2-year-old running across upstairs. So if you hear any footsteps, just know it's a small child. I'm doing the best I can.
Nice. So, all right, guys. Well, if you have any final questions for JoeDan, throw them in the chat. We'll give about 3 to 5 minutes. T-Rex stomping scene.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So Paul. So just so everyone knows, Call Sign Bloodbath. I call it a reverse lit RPG, but it is basically like a urban fantasy. It is real world in our universe as we know it. So the action and intensity that you got with Recover the Jackpot, you're going to get even more action, even more intensity. And like Richie Stevens said, it's the most brutal lit RPG out there, especially book 2 and soon to be book 3. Book 3 is going to be ramped up even more. And I am so excited for it. So you guys are in for a treat.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
It's
when I cold read your prologue, I legitimately, it was the coldest of cold reads. I'm sitting in a meat freezer reading this thing. I didn't read over it. I didn't glance. It was a absolute like freeze fest, and that was so fun. I'm reading it and I'm going like, good God, this is wild.
Yep.
I mean, every scene I'm looking over. If you haven't read the prologue, you should check it out. It's freaking, it's so visceral. Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, Paul. Absolutely. So yeah, so that's where with a few minutes left, again, if you have questions for JoeDan, throw them in the chat. But book 1 is complete and up on Royal Road right now. We go to editing in January 1st, with it supposed to be done by the end of January, and then JoeDan will get it. Book 2 is complete. I will be doing a very small edit to it when it goes up on Royal Road, but it will drop on Royal Road in January. And then in January, book 3 will start dropping in the Patreon, where I'm writing up to 14. I'm on chapter 14 right now, and we'll be doing 2 chapters a week. So that's where it just gives me more time to continue to write. So book 2 goes to editing in February, and then March is supposed to be book 3. So hopefully JoeDan will be recording the audio, and we will do a rapid release probably at the end of summer, right at the beginning of fall in 2024. The reason for that is I wanted everything to be complete and done when we drop it, and then that gives me all of summertime and fall to be working on this new book series where there's just going to be so much to it. I've actually started building a world Bible because of how complex everything is, and I think you guys are going to love it. It's something I got so excited about. I wanted to stop writing Bloodbath to do it, but I didn't. So
I actually saved Ryan's book. He read through my chapter 0 of my book, my sort of like prequel of mine, and gave me some great feedback. So I've got him saved on Royal Road too.
Nice.
It's funny. I couldn't read the way that Royal before. It was the way when you didn't have an app for it. So Royal Road for me, what taught me was mother of learning. That series was so long that by the time I got the end of it, I actually was more comfortable with the scrolling up. I used to be a slide, and after that, I ended up. That's how I do everything now.
Nice.
I pulled away from slide because I literally fell asleep one time and just did something like that, and somehow shot up like 4 chapters. It's like falling asleep with an audiobook because you think you're more awake than you are, and you wake up and it's like Jimmy killed John with a sledgehammer, and you're like, who is John? Where am I?
Right. So Ryan, going back to your thing, I don't think there is a competition. Like you are assigned author with like far more viewers and ratings than me, man. Congrats on the success. Like you won. I would say there is no competition. You have won. I will openly admit that. Paul, where do you plan on releasing the audio versions? all three all three books, the audio will drop on Audible exclusive. So because we're doing it all in-house, indie, that's just the way I plan to release them. So my Patreon members, right now we have 9, and they all get audiobook codes. So when you start out, you get 10 promo codes. I hand those promo codes out to my Patreon members. So if you want to come join the Patreon, you can support us that way. You guys, they get the certain tiers get books, but for the first 10 people, I've given them promo codes. But yeah, it'll be on Audible for sure.
You won't have to give one to me because I'll have about 27 versions of it saved onto my
About
computer.
to say. That's hilarious to think about, really.
See, if you send me an Audible code, I'm you know what though? Maybe it'd be nice to have in my library, but we'll see. I'll be more than happy to throw a credit to it though.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely you'll definitely get The Dying Breed Injustice when that comes out.
Yeah. Well, I went ahead and grabbed
Hunters.
book 1. I intended on waiting till I got a credit and just bought it because I like Tom's voice. I wanted to hear it. So look, and I'll say this about TJ because I don't want you to beat yourself up over it. You're writing something that's so ballsy, it's hard to market. You know what? It just is.
Oh, Bloodbath?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so, and Dying Breed was your first series. These are all, these are mitigating factors that you have to acknowledge. There's no publishing company that has the marketing to be able to handle Bloodbath that I know of. I think that you might even do better with like a comic book company.
What's funny is when Marvel said that they're not going to do the Punisher anymore.
Yeah.
The original creator of Punisher came out on Twitter and said, fine, he's going to create a whole new series. I was this close to tweeting him and being like, bro, you get the artist. I've already got the story. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Because it was John Wick and Marvel Punisher smashed together. And for me, it was Brian that challenged me to write Bloodbath. So I was like, I'm going to write exactly what I know. I'm going to write a story that I would want to read. And if this was a game, this is the game that I would want to play.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from. That's not what I meant, dude. Sorry. I was just trying to push you in the same way you pushed me. Oh, not. Well, dude, here's the other thing. Like, there's a difference between, there's pushing and then there's uplifting and acknowledging when you've done a great job. You've made a killer book and, you need to get credit. So, you've done awesome. I don't want to compete with Grand System Vending 2. Like, your readership crushes me right now.
I seriously though, I love.
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it.
I love the push. And I also feel like you and I being career-wise pretty early, I would be so happy if your books took off, even if mine crashed. And I would like to think that if I was, the next Matt Denneman or, or Colleen Hoover, whatever, that you would be just as happy. Because the thing is about all of us is that surprisingly, people that are in direct competition with each other are very friendly. There are very few enemies in the lit RPG world, and if so, it's because one person has isolated themselves and has earned that. It's everyone works together. People, publishing owners are friends. People like Shadow Alley Press and Mountaindale. Those guys all go out to eat dinner together. Like they love each other. And would be so upset if something happened to either one of their careers,
Dude,
and so
I love James and Jeanette. Like, I've gotten to spend 20 books to 50K. There was, I finally got to spend genuine time with James and Jeanette.
Yeah.
I got to spend genuine quality time with Matt Denneman and Seth Ring. And those guys, like, just the quality time spent with them and Brian and actually Ben Curie. I love spending time with Ben Curie, and that's why he's coming on the show. So, I mean, like, those friendships, absolutely, man. Like Stephen Landry, I love Stephen and Tori. I love
Yeah.
them. I wish more people would read their books because I just love that dude. You know, so yeah, that's why this community is awesome, because we continue to be like, I want that guy to be successful.
Yeah.
I want him to be more successful than me at this point, right? Like I want his books to be better than mine. That's the way I feel that the vast majority of the authors are in this genre, but that's
Yeah.
just also who I am. Like I want to see other people be successful before I ever get successful.
I'm very blessed in the sense that, having gone through the things that I've been through, I do have a supplemented income. I It would take literally half of what it would take you to be able to write and narrate full time, because I have my military retirement. I have those things. Um, and so, and at that point, so Kyle says imposter syndrome happens to everyone. It's our job to look past that and reach farther so we can continue to become better. And I think that most of the time I can look at myself and say that I trust you, I trust Brian, I trust Chatfield, I trust James. And if you all have pulled me into your inner circle as somebody who you feel fits, then I need to trust that you've done that for a reason and to honor that by working hard and saying, maybe they see something that I don't. Ryan telling me that he would absolutely jump to the next chapter of my story. Like I didn't need him to, I even told him, like, I don't need you to go through and like pour through it or whatever. I need to know that what I'm doing isn't just crazy,
Right.
and he's like, no, you're on the right path. Keep pushing. That's all I needed, and I'm telling you, you're on the right path. Keep pushing, because there's a market for what you're doing. No one is doing what you're doing. So when that market hits, it's going to hit like a steel trap, and you are going to be the one that built it, you know.
Thanks,
And
man.
and you know what? If somebody makes it and somebody else doesn't, we're just going to keep pushing, because sometimes it happens and you never know. And you having this backlog of books, when you do write something that is more mainstream and isn't just for military guys like me, old crusty dudes like me that like war and combat, then they'll have loads of your brain to dive into.
Right. Yeah. Ryan said, I'll admit that's been hard sometimes. I found myself being jealous of others like TJ and Brian, but I have to remind myself that their success needs to be celebrated because they worked hard for it. I feel like that statement right there, there's so much we could dive into. Like that would be a whole nother hour. But, dude, it's be proud of your work,
Yeah.
but be proud of your work and just try to be as good as the person next to you. I never I know I've talked about it on my live stream before, but like Master Chief Nasty Nash, one of the first 50 Navy SEALs, that the first 50 guys that started Navy SEALs. Johnson was the best sniper. I never wanted to be better than Johnson. I wanted to be as good as Johnson. Travis was the best runner. I didn't want to be better than Travis, but I wanted to be as good as Travis. And that's how they saw competition. For me, after reading or listening to Matt's book, Dungeon Crawler Carl, there were certain aspects of the humanity of Dungeon Crawler Carl is what I took out of it. And I just fell in love with that. And I fell in love with, after he's having these moments of humanity and the show is trying to do these things, he's like, yeah, no, fuck you, dude. You're a piece of shit. How could you not help the grandma across the street? And I was like, I love that. I want to have more of that. Yeah. I want to, that's just the way I look at it, man. Be proud of your work and just constantly be trying to get better, man, because you're an awesome dude and you have an awesome story.
You will not break me.
Yeah. God damn it, donut. And imposter syndrome is something that we do deal with and struggle with. And that's why I love Stephen Landry. And he's someone I care so much about, because we all deal with it. And Stephen and I, that's one of the main things we want to talk about on our live stream is imposter syndrome, and how you could have put out 50 books and you still struggle with it. You could put out one book and you struggle with it. It's something that constantly comes and goes, and it never goes away, I don't think. But yeah, be as good as
to break you.
so you can forge your own mark and inspire others. There you go, man. 100%. Love you, dude. I want all of you to be successful because I consume about 6 hours of audio every day, and I need you to feed my habit.
You got a problem, dude.
Kyle, I'd love to break you. I don't know. I don't know how to take that, Kyle, but I'll take it in a loving way.
I think he means it in a really loving way.
Yeah.
I think Kyle and every time that I've been in a chat with Kyle, it's like we go to make the same jokes at the same time. And our brains, I think, work very similar to one another.
Yeah. So, all right. You guys, I think that's it, really.
Yep. I think we've got a good point going here. And, I want to say, guys, support your authors. Where it's a lot of blood and tears. Maybe not crying, not unless we're in the shower, but.
I definitely cried writing Bloodbath. I just can't remember what part. But I know I got choked up, teary-eyed at one point. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, there's parts of yourself in everything you write. Like for me, my main character, of course, every part of silly goose. Every part of an MC does have elements of yourself or people you love. And so for me, my MC that I'm writing is much more serious than I am for the most part. But what is me is his struggle. He's in a desert world and he has a prosthetic. Like that's a nightmare. And so, I was able to put that in there because I wanted that struggle. I wanted that, and I don't know how many people, I'm just working on my first book. So don't worry.
He hasn't released it yet, Q.
Yeah, but I'm 75,000. My goal, I have a writer's retreat that I was invited to at the early part of next year. My goal is to have a solid first draft that I have edited one time through in April.
And let's put this into perspective too. You only had 26,000 words in September.
Yeah.
Literally. So you
I
did
would
50,000 words in 4 months.
Which for, a first book and with me getting over that scary part. Yeah. It's been a lot. But thank you for asking because obviously when I drop my first book, we're going to do another one of these.
Hell yeah.
While I try to find a way to hire JTJ or Daniel Oreskes to narrate my series. I like a good solid deeper voice, and I guess it's partially because that's my voice, and I know there's going to be people that don't like that, but I don't always you'll hear this and I don't always sound like I'm about to put on a wife beater and start trying to break skulls in audio. I'm capable of of doing other voices other than I turned around and shot him through the neck with my.
You fucking killed Booster in her whisper. Like that was good. I remember when you mentioned it to me, and when I listened to it, I was like, "This is like the best female whisper you could have ever gotten," and you killed it. So.
Good. I was trying. My fear was I didn't want it to be like, "Hello."
Sleep. Can you hear me?
Sleep.
What's on top of me? Help.
I'm in a well.
Don't mind me. I've got a little sinus congestion.
these horse steroids.
So what's funny is Booster is an best friend of mine as well from the Air Force, and I'm now picturing her with 3 years of 3 years of steroids and as a special operator, and it's horrifying.
She's on her fourth puberty.
Sight to mentally picture.
She's like, "How did you get taller?"
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, you guys. So once this series is done and we're ready to launch, we'll definitely come back. We'll have JoeDan do some warm reads.
I'm Batman.
Favorite parts. because that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you guys again so much for coming, hanging out with us. The link to the video is in the description. It's also in the chat. Go take a listen, like it, comment, tell us what you think, and share the shit out of it. Have fun.
Yeah, share it. Share it, baby.
Put it on all your socials. But
Yeah.
that is it for us, you guys. So thank you so much. We love you all. And
Thank y'all.
Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday.
Happy holidays. Oh, an idea for the Yeti name is Dirty Landry
Dirty Landry?
instead of Dirty Laundry.
Maybe.
Airing
can think
your-
about it.
No, maybe not. We'll have to think about that.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Take care.
Yeah, I don't believe in destiny. I just do what's best for me. Don't listen to my enemies, they're just full of jealousy. Yeah, this legacy, you gon' see what's left of me. You gon' see success in me. You ain't seen the rest of me. I just wanna be the best at what I know, better than the rest, just watch me grow. Put me to the test and watch me go. This is my quest, I'ma make it known. They call me obsessive, oh I know. Call me selective with my notes. Call me aggressive with my flow. Call me offensive even though Joe, I ain't gonna lie, life's tough. Try to get by, life's rough. Try to do it right, it's not enough. Even though you try, you still mess up. But I'm still gonna fight for what I love. Still gonna die for what I love. Still gonna try, I won't give up. Still gonna fight until I've won. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left. And I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret. Cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in. I will not let them win. I won't stop till the end, no. Through some injuries, mentally and physically. Studied them religiously so I don't repeat history. And people won't admit to me they don't want a victory bad enough to get a C. They'd rather just go leave it be. And oh, this journey I've been on since 13, working hard and learning, never stopping searching.